Klinghoffer did not die. Klinghofer was murdered. Leon Klinghofer was an elderly American Jew in a wheelchair. Palestinian terrorists came on board the ship. They separated the Jews from the non-Jews, and they found Leon Klinghofer was going to be the example. They shot him in the head, and they threw him overboard in the Mediterranean Sea. To make a production that seeks to legitimize this act of murder is morally objectionable.
It's unfortunate that art sometimes trespasses lines that various different groups feel it shouldn't, but you know, that's what art is supposed to do. Art is supposed to explore thorny and difficult issues. The concern of the protesters is that any voice given to terrorism should be stopped.
With banners, loudspeakers and wheelchairs, protesters gathered outside New York's Metropolitan Opera on Monday night, accusing it of encouraging anti-Semitism and terrorism. The anger was directed at composer John Adams's critically acclaimed 1991 opera The Death of Klinghoffer, about the murder of the wheelchair-bound Jewish-American tourist Leon Klinghofer by Palestinian hijackers aboard the Achille Lauro cruise liner in 1985.
As an opera, the music and the choruses are quite excellent. John Adams, who wrote it, is one of our great American composers. However, this murder was a pure act of terror for which there were no justifiable reasons.
When you get into the subject of censorship, you need to be quite careful. So it is true that there are characters in the opera who express anti-Semitic opinions.
Always convey the younger suffering. But wherever poor men are gathered, you can find Jews getting fat.
So if you were to take the view that no work of drama could justifiably express any unacceptable opinion, you'd have to censor not only this opera, you'd have to censor Shakespeare's play Macbeth, you would have to censor the film 12 Years a Slave on the basis that it endorses slavery. I mean, it's a completely unsustainable position.
The opera relies heavily on two choruses of exiled Palestinians and Jews, each singing about the conflicts and dispossessions suffered by their people. Supporters see the choruses as providing historical context, but critics see them as an attempt at moral equivalency to justify an indefensible act.
I think that this is a disgusting event of supporting terrorism and making terrorism look like a good thing, making it artistic, supporting the narrative that it's okay to kill people if you have a good cause. These are murderers, cold-hearted murderers. Kill a man in a wheelchair.
If this were 100 years hence, it would be a different story because it would be part of history, just like World War II is part of history. But the family is still here.
Steven Sotlov was a journalist who was beheaded by ISIS over the summer. Should we make an opera about the Steven Sotlov beheading called The Death of Sotlov and go into why the British ISIS member who beheaded him, what were his motives, why should we recognize his side?
I think the fact that there are horrible events in the world is an indication that we live in an increasingly polarized and impossible society. But that is not, the chances of human understanding are not going to be increased by shutting down works of art.
I object to the opera being staged by the Met. They have the right to, I feel there's a right to compose and perform whatever you want to, but I don't think they should give it this platform here.
Many of the protesters say the Met fails to understand the pain caused by an opera about terrorists, especially in New York. But few of the critics have even seen the opera, and its director argues that it is precisely the role of art to find new ways for people to understand each other.
In the heart of this opera, in the middle of it, there is a man on the ship, a captain, whose ship has been taken by force, by hijackers. He decides to try to befriend one of the hijackers and to see the human in that man. When he has a contact with him, he says, if you could talk like this, sitting among your enemies, peace would come.
The day that I and my enemies said peacefully, each putting his case and working towards peace, that day our hope dies, and I shall die too.
Said the father of Daniel Pearl, some coins do not have two sides, and what was done to Leon Klinghofer has no other side. We are seeing New York is not an artistic expression that challenges the limits of morality, but a moral deformity that challenges the limits of art. The Metropolitan Opera has squandered humanity's greatest treasure, our moral compass, our sense of right and wrong, our reverence for music as a noble expression of the human spirit.
This is how communications works in our world. People look for an opportunity to tell a story. And in this case, they've chosen the Met's programming of this opera to tell a story which is not about the opera, it's about something else. And honestly, I say good luck to them and tell your story because it's important. But no one should think that what they're saying has anything to do with the opera. It just doesn't.